Welcome into the Chiefs Report by Chat Sports. I'm your host, Harrison Graham. You can follow me on Twitter. I'm at HGrahamNFL for more Chiefs news and updates over there. All right, let's talk about the big story in the NFL. Julio Jones, he appears to be on the trade block as the Falcons are reportedly willing to trade him. Now, could the Chiefs trade for him? That is what we're going to talk about over the next few minutes on this show. First of all, got a couple of years left on his contract. Pro Football Focus did propose a Julio to Chiefs trade idea. We'll get to that in just a second. Did want to mention first, though, that if you were to trade for Julio, roughly $15 million on the cap hit for Kansas City if they take him on. Right now, they got about $8-9 million in cap space, so they're close-ish. They'd have to tweak a couple of things. Maybe you give Tyrann Mathieu an extension to clear some cap, so keep that in mind. Here was PFF's trade idea for this one. Julio in a sixth to Kansas City for a second, third, and a sixth back to the Falcons. Basically, Chiefs just get a lower sixth-round pick based on, or actually a higher sixth-round pick, assuming the Chiefs finish better than the Falcons next year, and then they ship out a second and third for Julio. Honestly, for the Chiefs, it's a pretty good big deal, or a pretty good deal in terms of value, and this would be bonkers, right? Like, could you imagine Julio Jones getting traded to the Kansas City Chiefs? This would be phenomenal if Kansas City landed Julio Jones. Now, this past year he dealt with some injuries, but you're talking about arguably the best receiver of his generation. That's how good Julio Jones has been in his career. He is going to be in Canton. This is a Hall of Fame wide receiver. The only, slight detriment in his career is he hasn't always been a high touchdown guy. I think that would go up significantly in Kansas City, but he's put up ridiculous numbers year in and year out. And something we've talked about for, a couple of months now is while the Chiefs have a lot of depth at wide receiver, they don't necessarily have a true number two wide receiver. Now, Julio is obviously a number one, so you would have two number ones, Tyreek Hill, Julio Jones. They obviously do a lot of different things, but you would be dynamic at the top, and you would have a ton of depth. Hardman, Robinson, Pringle, all these guys, less pressure on them, and they can be more of these depth filler type of pieces on this offense. Just imagine, close your eyes and think about it. Tyreek Hill and Julio Jones catching passes from Patrick Mahomes. Are you kidding me? You might as well cancel the season if that happens, because it is over if Kansas City somehow were able to land Julio Jones. This would be the greatest offense in NFL history if it happened. You'd have the best quarterback in the league, two of the top five receivers in the league, and a completely rebuilt offensive line. Oh, and by the way, Travis Kelce's the best tight end in the NFL as well. Unbelievable if this were to go down. Now, do I actually think it's going to? I doubt it. I tend to think that other teams, A, have more to offer, and B, need a Julio Jones more than Kansas City. But I'm on the phone. If I'm Brett Veach, I'm at least calling Atlanta and saying, hey, what's the price tag? Because Brett Veach is a guy who's very, very opportunistic. We will keep our eyes on this one when it comes to Julio Jones. So what do you guys think? Should the Chiefs trade, or at least try to trade, for Julio Jones? Type Y for yes, type N for no. Get your votes in on this one. This would obviously be very, very, very interesting and exciting. What do you guys think? Y for yes, N for no. Should the Chiefs trade for Julio? Now, today's show is sponsored by the Newsbreak app. We've been telling you guys about this app for a couple of months now, and I'm just a huge fan of it because, obviously, I'm a millennial. I don't take the newspaper. I downloaded this app, and I get all my local stories on one feed. And when you go to chatsports.com/ChiefsNB, you can download the app as well. And, hey, come on. The Raiders Report, one of our other shows here at Chat Sports, is also on the Newsbreak app, as is the Chiefs Report. You can find more videos over there. We're trailing. Come on. The Raiders aren't better than the Chiefs. Download the app today and give us a follow on Newsbreak. Go to chatsports.com/ChiefsNB. When you search the Chiefs Report, you can find our channel on Newsbreak as well, and you can find some of our videos. You can also keep up to date with local news and weather, politics, pop culture, whatever your news and sports content flavor is. It's all going to be aggregated onto one feed based on your zip code. And hey, let's catch the Raiders Report on Newsbreak. Chatsports.com/ChiefsNB. When you use that link to download the app, it supports the show. And then search the Chiefs Report and give us a follow. Let's talk Alshon Jeffery here on the Chiefs Report. And Fansided threw this idea out there. Maybe you're thinking, Julio, we don't want to trade more assets away. How about signing Alshon Jeffery? I'm kind of like, I don't know. Does this make a lot of sense? Maybe, maybe not. I don't really think so. Now, you could think of it this way, like, okay, Alshon Jeffery in his peak, certainly a high-level receiver, at a point a number 1 and for sure a number 2. You didn't re-sign Sammy Watkins, who was your number 2, and there's still question marks about if the Chiefs have a true number 2 wide receiver, and stylistically, Jeffery would give you a different look at the wide receiver position. Bigger body, red zone type of guy, all that good stuff. All that being said, though, Alshon Jeffery might be washed, right? Like, he might be washed at this point. Maybe he's not. Maybe he's got a little juice left in the tank. But here's what I know. The injuries have piled up. He just hasn't been able to stay on the field the past 2 years for the Philadelphia Eagles. You look at 2019 and 2020. Last year, only played in 7 games, had 6 catches for 115 yards and a touchdown. 2019, when he played, he was okay. If you expand that to if he played all 16 games, he would have had about 700 yards and maybe 6 touchdowns. Okay, that's not bad, right? If you get that version of Alshon and he stays healthy, okay, that's pretty good. That might be a number 2 caliber wide receiver for the Kansas City Chiefs, but I don't know that you're going to get that. I would tend to think that you wouldn't get that. I would rather roll with some younger guys and see if one of these 4 or 5 players after Tyreek Hill can emerge and be that number 2 receiver. Mecole Hardman, big year for him. Let's see if he can break out. Demarcus Robinson, they brought him back to compete. Byron Pringle has gotten better and better. You drafted Cornell Powell. Does signing Alshon Jeffery just bolster your wide receiver unit in a major way? I don't really think so. Now, if you told me you're getting 16 games of healthy Alshon, I'm at least intrigued at that point. 6'3", 220, you get a jump ball type of receiver in this offense, something you don't really have. Yeah, that's appealing, but again, he just hasn't been able to stay on the field the past couple of years, so I would probably lean away from signing Mr. Alshon Jeffery. Be the GM. You're Brett Veach. You're in charge. What would you do? Should you sign Alshon Jeffery? Type S for sign him. Type P for pass. I'm good. That's kind of where I sit. I'm not that interested. Now, non-guaranteed contracts to compete in training camp? Sure, but beyond that, I don't think it really makes a whole lot of sense. We hope our channel makes sense, and we hope you enjoy it. And if you do, subscribe. YouTube.com/ChiefsTV. Videos almost every single day, about 5 videos a week right now. I want to make it a 7 videos per week show, but we need more subscribers. The latest Chiefs news, rumors, trade ideas like Julio Jones, mailbags, and a whole lot more. You can find it all on this channel, youtube.com/ChiefsTV. Let's grow this channel so we can do more videos throughout the offseason and on into the 2021 season. One more trade idea before we sign off on today's show. How about trading for Josh Jackson? No, not the basketball player. The cornerback for the Packers, who's kind of been similar to the guy they traded for last week, Mike Hughes, and ironically was in that same draft in 2018. Jackson was a second-round pick in that draft, had high expectations, mostly been disappointing. Kind of been a part-time starter, more of a special teams contributor. Green Bay bolstered their cornerback unit this offseason, so there's some thought that they may try to trade him out, if not ultimately cut him, and maybe you could get him for very, very cheap, a similar trade to Mike Hughes. But my thought is, you already did this for Mike Hughes. You're already taking a chance on a former high pick for depth purposes. This doesn't make sense. You don't need another depth corner if you are Kansas City. You've got plenty of depth behind your starters. If anything, you need to add a starter if you want to bolster your cornerback room. Look at the depth chart. Where do you need depth? You got DeAndre Baker, who was a first-round pick a couple of years ago. You got Bo Pete Keys, who was a rookie last year, who I think has some promise. You already traded for Mike Hughes. Rashad Fenton might end up being your 4th corner if you sign someone else. Like, you're fine with depth. You don't need another flyer on a former high draft pick. I'm not trading another draft pick to go get Josh Jackson, a guy who has 0 interceptions in 42 career games and only 12 pass breakups. He's just not that valuable. Now, if he were to get cut, I'd have interest in signing him. I would rather wait and see if that happens. But all of that being said, could you use another cornerback? Yes. But it's got to be a starter. To me, you either bring back Bashaud Breeland on a 1-year deal or you just roll with what you got. I think you can get by with what you have. I'd be more comfortable if you re-signed Breeland and either slid Ward or Rashad Fenton to CB4, but I don't think you need another CB4 or 5, and that's what Josh Jackson is. You just don't need it. It's not necessary. If you want one, go sign a cheap one on the market. Don't trade assets for Josh Jackson. That doesn't make any sense. You literally just did that for Mike Hughes. No reason to do it for a second week in a row. Do the Chiefs need another corner? What do you think? 1 for yes, 2 for no? Needs a strong word. Could they use one? Yes, but it needs to be a starting caliber corner, whether it's Bashaud Breeland, Brian Poole, or someone else, not Josh Jackson. Get your votes in. Does Kansas City need another cornerback? 1 for yes or 2 for no?